got Pinnacle, we got QT Marshall's crew, we got Team Taz, we got the Death Trap, we got the Elite, and the kind of Bullet Club Elite. And the question is today, are there too many factions in All Elite Wrestling? What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Rantin review here. We are talking today about some wrestling stuff. I know because there's 3 people that keep emailing me over and over again, and they're very, very angry. They unsubscribed a long time ago, but they're very, very angry with me. So for those of you who are still subscribed to this channel, I do appreciate you guys with the channel changing. I just assume that, you know, entertainment, people like other things besides just one thing. Guess some people don't, but most of you apparently do. So thank you guys again for being subscribed to the channel. If you're not subscribed to my channel, keep in mind that this channel is about entertainment, which includes pro wrestling, TV shows, movies, video games, all kinds of stuff. So if you want to be subscribed to this channel, hit that subscription button down, and might as well the notification bell. And of course, given that this is a wrestling video, take that chair and smash it over that like button down in the description box below. It helps the YouTube algorithm let other people know that I have videos available about these topics, and if they are interested in them, they'll be more likely to watch them, so I definitely appreciate it. On to this topic today, because this is a topic that comes up. I've seen it a lot over the last couple of weeks, and my personal opinion, just to start this off, is yes and no. And by the end of this video, you'll know why I say yes and why I say no, and it's kind of in the middle. Although I'm probably leaning a little bit more towards no, and I will explain that in a second. But first off, trying to list the number of factions with names in AEW. This doesn't even count the factions that don't have names. It's a bit of a daunting task. You've got so many of them running around. And are there too many? Possibly so. I mean, there are, again, Inner Circle, Elite, Bullet Club, Nightmare Family, QT Marshall's Splinter Group for the Nightmare Family, Team Taz, the Death Triad, Jurassic Express, the Best Friends, the Dark Order. I mean, you got some of the lower mid-carders have their own little groups and factions together now. So there are a lot of factions within AEW. And keeping track of them, I think that's probably part of the problem, is that they gave them all names, so people feel that they have to keep track of all of these, like upwards of, I think it's well over 10 to 15 factions right now, which is a lot. And I think, yes, it is too much. However, there are some caveats to me saying that that's too much. Again, for those of you who are new to my channel, I am an old school wrestling fan. I've been watching pro wrestling since 1985, and in the 80s in particular, there are a lot of factions too, especially in the Jim Crockett NWA promotion, which was the precursor to World Championship Wrestling. I mean, you had Varsity Club, the Horsemen, the Superpowers, the First Family. Yeah, I mean, on and on and on down the line, you had factions within the old Crockett territory. Paul Jones's crew, all kinds of stuff. Over in the WWE, even in the WWF at the time, I should say, you know, you had the Heenan family, then you had Jimmy Hart's people, then you had Slick's people, then you had Luscious Johnny V's people, then you had Hogan and his friends, and you know, and it kept going on and on and on with all of these factions. However, again, it's what AEW has right now is almost triple the amount of factions that they had back in the day. So I'm used to factions, and I don't think having more than 2 is a bad thing. I've seen a lot of people like, there should only be 1. It's like, no, you should, people in the world, I think, because I have them, I'm sure some of you guys have them, I think some of the people don't, have friends, and you have your group that you hang out with. And I would think that would happen in wrestling. But there is a reason why a lot of people have an aversion to factions. The number one reason I will probably cite is, again, we had about 18 years where Vince McMahon's vision of pro wrestling ruled the roost. Even when there were other companies like TNA and so on and so forth, a lot of them kind of followed the patterns of the WWE. Now, TNA did have its fair share of factions and aces and eights and the Main Event Mafia and so on and so forth. But really a lot of focus in wrestling, the end-all and be-all for the longest time, unfortunately for TNA, was the WWE. And Vince famously did not like factions. Despite the fact that Freebird Michael Hayes is on the crew, they allow one here or there. I mean, you got, I think, the Evolution at one point in time, but there wasn't really anybody else. Now, to be noted, in the Attitude Era, it was almost like it is in AEW now, because if you remember in the Attitude Era, almost everybody except Stone Cold Steve Austin was in a faction. You had the Brothers of Destruction, and then the corporate ministry, then the ministry, then the corporate ministry, which was the merger of the corporation and the ministry. Then they also had the Brood, which they threw the Brood into the corporate ministry. You had Jim Cornette and Jeff Jarrett doing the NWA faction that never went anywhere. For a brief period of time, like even like groups like Head Cheese, you know, stuff like that. Of course, Degeneration X, the Nation of Domination, Right to Censor. I mean, you had factions out the wazoo back in the day. You can even say Team Extreme. The Hardys and Lita were another faction. The same way that they have factions today in AEW. So once again, it's another one of these things, and this is why I say I don't think it's too many, because I just listed a whole, that was about what, 8, 6, 7, 8, 9 factions or whatever it was I just listed there. And that's just the ones off the top of my head. There were other ones at that time during the Attitude Era. And let's not even count what was going on in WCW with the Horsemen and the Dungeon of Doom and the NWO and the NWO Red and Black and the NWO White. And then it was Sting and Luger as a group. And then this. There were a lot of factions during the Monday Night War, which is the most popular time in modern wrestling history, not in entirety, but in modern wrestling history, it was the most popular time, most lucrative time, definitely. And, well, actually, no, now is the most lucrative time, but there were a lot of factions back then. It's another one of those cases where you hear a lot of people, probably the same people who, like, the WWE should bring back the Attitude Era, but then say that AEW has too many factions, when one of the hallmarks of the Attitude Era was the fact that they had a buttload of factions. The Oddities just came to my mind too. I mean, all of that was happening at the same time on WWE's roster. So one other thing I did consider though is that, and this is kind of like the benefit of having these factions, and this is where I really kind of say, yes, there's a lot of factions. It is kind of hard to keep track of all of them. This isn't new to wrestling though, but even more so, especially with QT Marshall's group that I've seen over this past week, it is beneficial to those guys. Having these people associated together gives a reason for them to all be on TV. So I'm getting to know Anthony Ogogo a little bit more. I'm getting to know a lot more about Sean Spears is back on TV again. He was in limbo for the longest time. You didn't see him. Now he's part of Pinnacle. It's giving us, as the audience, more airtime, more time for the announcers to say their names, more for us to associate the names with the faces and what they do and their different personalities. Now, some of the way this was done in the past was that if you didn't know a lot of these, if these guys weren't in these factions, you wouldn't know a lot of their names, and they'd be, jobbing to the main eventers and the upper mid-carders, and, they have to do that for 4 months before anybody remember their name. But now, a lot of us are becoming very quickly familiar with a lot of these guys and girls who are in, girls too, because they're all joining factions as well. You got Bunny with the Dark Order. You got Chris Statlander now with the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. So you're getting a lot of these people named, FaceTime on TV, and fans will choose, hey, I like that Anthony Ogogo guy. Hey, I like what QT Marshall's doing now. I never saw much of him before. Hey, I like what this is going on with this feud with Dustin that's going on right now. Anything like that. Anything that gives people more airtime, maximizing their minutes on TV, that they can go ahead and stand out. I think it's a good thing. At the end of the day, do I think they should cut down on some of the factions? Not so much. I think they just shouldn't give them all names, because when you give a faction a name, you have to remember it. It's very easy to see that Pentagon and Phoenix and Pac hang around. They're friends together. But having to go, oh well, that's Death Triangle. It's like, I do have to remember their name. What's Matt Hardy's group called? What's this group called? What's that group called? I think give them all having their little street names maybe a little bit much. Maybe take some of the names off and just have guys associated with each other, and leave the names for some of the bigger factions like the Inner Circle and Pinnacle and Dark Order and so on and so forth. But that's just my view on it. I want to know what your view is on it, because it's probably different than mine, or maybe you do agree with me. Let me know in the comment box below. Let your voice be heard. Also, if you're new to this channel, do remember that I've got a lot of free goodies down in the description box for you. You can get free stocks, up to 2 free stocks from Webull. If you deposit up to $100 using the affiliate link down below, you'll get up to 2 free stocks that could be worth up to $1,850. You also have a chance to get some free crypto from BlockFi and a 30-day free trial for Amazon Prime, which we will be talking about some stuff you can get with that Amazon Prime subscription in the near future on this channel, especially regarding some wrestling merchandise that is on there that I was surprised to find out that you actually can get through Prime without spending a lot of money. So keep that in mind, check that out down, get yourself some good stuff, and I will see you guys pretty soon for more wrestling videos here on the Rantin Review. Have a good day.